The question is very simple. We are on the verge of a new industrial revolution, of a new social revolution, of a new technical revolution with the birth of AI. Should we be optimistic or pessimistic? I start with the Honorable Savannah Maziya, who is the Senator and Minister of Information and Communication and Technology in the Kingdom of Eswatini. Your Excellency, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the time. To answer your question, I think we don't have an option but to be ready. And so if we don't have an option, I think that it is very wise for all of us to actually be excited about how we go forward, so that we're able to get in front of these issues. I can tell you from a perspective of the African continent, we have very young, a very young society that really requires for us to be able to open the door for them, to be able to get into the future. The days of resumes and going door to door are gone. The days of only depending on jobs are gone. So we need to be able to create an environment for them that they can be able to create futures, be able to create jobs, and also be able to expand to a higher level than we've been able to expand. I think as the older people in the room, sometimes we are a bit intimidated by them, and yet we don't really understand that if we open this door for them everywhere in the world, they'll really surprise us. You know, our parents used to say to us that we are a generation that knows nothing, and we say the same thing about this generation coming through, and yet they will surprise us. We have to be ready. I think we have to be excited. I think we have to plan for it. But most importantly, I think it's a chance for us to collaborate as a world, to deal and lead differently. We seem to have led from a position of, this is mine, I will not share it with anybody, and I do not want to be able to have anybody else progress. This is a time for us to have a leadership that says we collaborate around the world, let's learn from old lessons, and let's figure out how we make the world digital, but friendly, but safe, and ensure that it's cost effective, because around the world, not everyone can be able to afford to access where we're going. But we need to be able to ensure that nobody's left behind. We need to be able to ensure that women are also part of the conversation. And most importantly, we need to ensure that the youth are part of the conversation.
What an excellent way to start off this panel. Thank you, Minister. Next, I move to His Excellency Sherzod Shermatov, who is the Minister of Technology of the Republic of Uzbekistan. Minister, can I ask you whether you're personally optimistic or pessimistic, and what is the vibe in your country about the topic of digital disruption?
Definitely, we are very much optimistic, because in Uzbekistan for the past 7 years we have seen a huge digital transformation of our country. We have set the goal to make Uzbekistan an IT outsourcing hub. So for the past 7 years we've been systematically creating the best conditions for IT companies to open up their offices in Uzbekistan. And like in 2017 we have only 10 companies with foreign capital in IT. Now every month we have about 50 new companies are opening their offices in Uzbekistan, which are creating the new jobs for our young people. And we have to admit the support of UAE government in making sure that we have many young affordable talents available already, because we had a very successful implementation of 1 million Uzbek coders, which is a continuation of the 1 million Arab coders program, and it was very successful. And now we have so many young people who are eager to work online and who are constantly improving their language and IT skills. And on the other hand, we are also focusing on improving the access to government services. So we are trying to make sure that Uzbekistan will be among top 30 countries in global e-government ranking by 2030. And already for the past 2 rankings, we have seen that our country improved 24 positions in this global ranking. So that we would like to make sure that more and more citizens and businesses will be able to access all the government services without the necessity of going to any government offices. So, and of course, in the field of AI, we are trying to make sure that the country is very well ready for all the benefits and the challenges of AI disruption. For the latest ranking on AI readiness of the countries by Oxford Insights, we have jumped 17 positions to make sure that we are moving in line with the global trends.
Fantastic. And last but certainly not least, I would like to turn to His Excellency Belfor Fabio García, the Minister of Information and Communication Technology also in the Republic of Colombia. Minister, welcome to the panel, welcome to the UAE. I would like to ask you for the same opening remark. What is your sentiment about digital disruption? Should the world, and is your country positive or negative about it?
Mi sentimiento sobre la disrupción digital, soy optimista y nuestro gobierno es optimista frente a este tema. Y soy optimista porque la humanidad no es la primera vez que se enfrenta a fenómenos de este tipo. La situación de fenómenos como el juego, la rueda o la escritura fueron fenómenos del juego, la rueda o la escritura, fueron fenómenos incluso más trascendentales que se enfrenta la humanidad. Si tomáramos el ejemplo de la invención de la escritura, donde unos pocos hombres ínfimos, pequeños grupos de hombres son los que asumen ese rol de la escritura como lo muestra la sociedad egipcia. Y a pesar de todo, de todas esas limitaciones, fueron capaces de superar la humanidad para llegar a este punto en donde lograron que todos, y lo que logramos como humanidad es que todos aprendiéramos a leer y a escribir. Asimismo, pensamos que la inteligencia artificial es un enorme reto, pero es un enorme reto que ha permitido y posibilitar aprender a leer y escribir en términos de inteligencia artificial, y así nosotros como humanidad podremos superar esto, pero lo tenemos que hacer entre todos y lo tenemos que hacer de forma cooperativa, lo tenemos que hacer de forma inclusiva, en donde la consigna es que nadie se quede atrás y que los beneficios de la inteligencia artificial estén ligados al bienestar de la humanidad y no al bienestar de unos pocos.
Thank you, Your Excellency. I will go on to the next question. A recurring theme since this morning, and I know Your Excellency reverted to, is the topic of cooperation. I had the privilege of launching a Japanese edition of my newspaper, Arab News in Japan, and I got to learn a lot about Japanese culture. One of the most fascinating concepts I learned is the kanji term or a symbol of hito, which looks something like this. Hito in Japanese culture is the symbol for humanity or for people or for individual. And the myth behind the symbol is that there is no human that can survive without somebody supporting them. So based on that, there are working models, there are success stories, but perhaps not everybody is willing to share their success with others or would like to keep the advantage for them. Now, Minister, I would like to ask you, because your country has been involved in the Government Excellence Experience Exchange program with the UAE,
yes.
Who has initiated a sort of a debate or a knowledge transfer platform to be able to learn and to share best knowledges. Could you tell us a little bit about this program and how has it helped implement your vision of putting technology in people's hands in your country?
My goodness, how has it not helped? I mean, the relationship is really a brotherhood and a sisterhood of countries. We were so lucky to be able to really be called upon to join this relationship. So we signed an MOU with the UAE in September of last year. And a lot has happened since then, which is very encouraging because, as you rightly say, sometimes as countries we get involved with what we require and we really do not lend a hand. What we have found with the relationship is a real wonderful example of collaboration, because the kindness of sharing where the UAE has gone as a leader in the world in technology, the kindness of sharing where there's been concerns and where they want us to be able to not make mistakes that they do not, they may have made, has really come across to us as the most generous spirit as far as countries are concerned. And I'll give you an example. Just a starting point, one of the relationships that really took off is where we were able to train 50 teachers in AI and cybersecurity. And why teachers? Because they are the ones who are going to be in front of our children and being able to teach them. We've also had a relationship where we've been able to look at training in the area of the law, because whilst we are going forward and we are leapfrogging as the continent, we need to ensure that we have the right laws that are safe for the country or make the country safe, but also are able to attract investors. We're also looking at a relationship where we continue capacity building, and one of the things that we're talking to the UAE about is the coding experience, which I'm glad to hear others have also been a part of. We're looking to be able to say, in the next 2 years, how can Eswatini be able to train 300,000 coders? Now, that may be very little in countries that have very big populations, but we're 1.2 million people. So for us, that number is quite substantial and quite important. We've also been able to learn about how do you ensure that you allow government to really work with the private sector, because sometimes as government we're over here and the private sector's over there. We don't really collaborate, and yet we all need to be able to work together for the betterment. So the collaboration with ourselves and the UAE is and continues and will be one of the best relations that we'll ever have as Eswatini, because they really gave us the red carpet. They really were able to see where we want to go, because in our country what we're trying to do is make government visible but invisible, ensuring that citizens are not waiting in line to get services, but are able to use their phones to get services and have anything they deliver or require from government to come and be delivered to their homes. And so we'll be one of the few countries in the world that really leapfrogs, as Africa has done with the telecoms environment, and really ensure that every single corner of the country is digitized. So that will enable us to be able to go forward. So relationships like the one we have here at the UAE has really shown us that if you really focus and really work together, there can actually be cohesiveness as opposed to competition. So we're very happy about that.
And similarly, once you've implemented and clearly you have succeeded, would you be able to yourself then transfer that knowledge to another country that...
Well, that's the plan. The plan is to say we are almost a pilot country, if you will. We are a boiler point of all this to show the collaboration of the country, but also the results and successes that come from the collaboration and the programs. Because it's one thing to have an MOU, and I think countries are very good at signing MOUs, but how do you execute them? How do you make them practical? And how do you keep the relationship hot when you're over there and they're over here? It's important that we're continuously communicating so we give feedback to the country of what we're achieving. So that will enable us now, as a small country, to be able to share with other African countries, but also countries that are around the world of how we did it and really how we're able to succeed. Because I can tell you now, in the next 24 months, our country will be vastly different from what it is now. So you talk about the 40-year past, and I always talk about the next 20 years will be vastly different. I think for Eswatini, the next 24 months will be vastly different, and thanks to the collaboration with various people, including the UAE.
Well, Excellency, I'm loving the optimism. It's certainly something we need to hear more of. I'm glad you touched upon training and upskilling, because this is a perfect segue for my question to His Excellency, Mr. Shermatov. We've heard about the importance of education, and I want to hear a little bit about what possibly might be the initiatives that Uzbekistan is taking to prepare highly qualified IT specialists, and how are these measures helping to meet the demand in the region and globally? And similarly, who's your go-to partner for knowledge transfer or knowledge export?
Thank you for the question. Of course, exchanging experience is very important, and here, as in the previous question, I said that we have very close cooperation with UAE government in terms of the experience exchange and in terms of improving the capacity of the public administration. I can list some of those important projects. So first is 1 million Uzbek coders. It was very successful in terms of making sure that more and more young people are now eager to learn IT and the online and the foreign languages. And then we had the MGO Award, the initiative which was supported by UAE government to finance young startups. So even the last year World Government Summit, one of our startups was among the winner teams here. And it inspired overall the startup ecosystem. So many young people are now eager to work on their startups. And as a continuation of those efforts, with 1 million Uzbek coders, we now partnering with Coursera, so that Uzbekistan ranks #1 in the world in terms of the share of people who are studying online in Coursera platform. It was stated in the last year's World Skills Report on the share of the working age population. And with the MGO Award, we now moved to the President Tech Award with 10 times more than the amount which was allocated initially in this MGO Award platform. And of course, we are also cooperating in overall public administration reforms as well. We have a specialized agency, the Agency for Public Administration Management, and here we are working together with the UAE government to making sure that we are learning their best practices. So instead of just inventing something from scratch, it's good to have such a trustworthy partner who are helping us to go those ways without the necessity of making the similar mistakes or without the necessity of making initial huge investments. And of course, we are trying to make sure that Uzbekistan is making tremendous reforms in all other fields of education. We started with the preschools, because initial investment at the preschool level gives the most outcome for $1 invested. So initially, the coverage by preschool education was very small in 2017, but now almost all families are able to afford the preschool, so there are available preschool opportunities. And with the schools, we have connected all our schools with high-speed internet. For the countries with similar GDP per capita, it's very difficult to find where all schools are connected with high-speed internet. And we increased the access to higher education from 9% to almost 50%, so that any person who would like to continue in higher education, they can continue in higher education. So overall idea is to make sure that we have very affordable pool of talents for all the companies who would like to grow their business with us. So this is a message which we would like to deliver to all the companies. And as a continuation of our cooperation on the 13th February this week, we are making our Uzbekistan Tech Conference in DIFC in Ritz-Carlton. So I would like to invite all tech companies as well to participate, so that all those companies which are located in UAE and are looking forward to finding the outsourcing destination, they can utilize all the talents which are prepared by the 1 million Uzbek coders and are eager to work for UAE companies to expand their business with us.
Fantastic. Well, let me go then to His Excellency Belfor García. Your Excellency, I want to go to the second pillar of this discussion, which is overcoming barriers to digital transformation. And as we all know, there are several barriers here, and I would be quite interested to hear your perspective from your part of the world, because in this part of the world, we see two issues in particular. One is the advantage English-speaking countries have when it comes to the data that AI can learn from. And second, as we've seen in the last days of the Biden administration, a decree that says, apart from a limited country, the export of chips is limited to 50,000 per country, which of course is a handicap for countries that might have wide ambitions. And I just wanted to check, does your country have similar, see these as similar challenges? And what would you say is the solution?
Para nosotros es muy importante la cooperación en el sentido de que el conocimiento debe ser de la humanidad. El conocimiento debe ser de todos, porque la tecnología es un acumulado histórico de la humanidad. Por eso nadie puede apropiarse de ese conocimiento que se ha construido a través de miles de años. Hoy nuestro presidente, el doctor Gustavo Petro Urrego, se encuentra aquí en la ciudad de Dubái, en Emiratos Árabes Unidos, buscando esos acuerdos y esa cooperación que tenemos que establecer entre los diferentes países para poder construir de una forma unificada, de una forma cooperativa, tanto hardware como software. E incluso nuestro presidente Gustavo Petro en el año 2003 presentó ante el Congreso de la República de Colombia el proyecto de ley de software libre, porque el software libre va a permitir que ese conocimiento que Colombia tenga sobre determinados desarrollos en software pueda ser compartido por el resto del mundo. Asimismo, pensamos que hay que trabajar sobre temas de hardware libre. Hacer hardware libre es lo que va a permitir que todas las sociedades ricas, pobres, medianas, puedan participar en ese ecosistema de tecnología. Para nosotros necesitamos ser disruptivos en esos procesos y no solamente centralizar en algunos países del mundo por algunas solas empresas que sean las que produzcan y tengan el conocimiento. Solo es posible avanzar todos juntos cuando todos poseemos el conocimiento, porque tenemos la capacidad de hacerlo y se ha demostrado que es posible desarrollar procesos alternativos en producción de tecnología, tanto de hardware como software, para el servicio de la humanidad.
Your Excellencies, due to an overlap in the schedule, I'm going to have to wrap up with final thoughts from all of you, but I would like it to be a final thought for people to contemplate and take away with them. So as we've heard a lot of optimism, as we learned about of hope, I would like for each and every one of you to give us one example of a success story that you would like to share with the rest of the world when it comes to overcoming digital disruption. I will start with my own country of Saudi Arabia. We had an application called Upskilling. It literally put all government services in people's hand. It was inaugurated just before the pandemic, and luckily it managed to manage our lives perfectly through the pandemic, whereby you get your health status, whether you are infected, what you're possibly infected, whether you are listed as green so you can access information, and you manage your life very smoothly through the pandemic. And I know there are many countries that have sent requests to copy that technology. So that is something that I think, at least in our country, we are very proud to have shared with the world. And I would like to hear similar experiences, either something you've accomplished or that you are hoping to accomplish and share with the world.
Thank you so much for that. We certainly know that as a country, with our partners, we'll be able to accomplish the issue that you're discussing now about enabling our citizens to be able to have government in your hand. We also know that we're going to be one of the few countries that have more power than we actually require, because part of the transformation is not only to be able to make sure that government is accessible, but to make sure that we get investors. So those things really give us the opportunity to leapfrog. But the most important thing is, how do we get seen as a country that is fully digitized, that's open for business? So the power issue for us is very important, but also the issue of getting all our youth involved. So the example of government in your hand, we see as opening up the world for Eswatini to the rest of the globe, not just looking at 1.2 million people. We also see it as a particular positioning for us to be able to get more and more collaboration. So for example, bringing in people like Google, which we've already done. So the example is government in your hand for us will definitely be a game changer.
Thank you so much. Your Excellency, one example from your country?
We have implemented our internal e-document system, so that to make sure that all the governments, because everything is important thing is the execution. So there are so many documents, there are so many issues, decrees, etc. If you don't ensure the execution part, then it's a failure. So we have a centralized system which tracks all the presidential decrees, the government decrees, to make sure that it's implemented at all levels of the government, to make sure that the government is efficient. And of course, for the G2C and G2G part, G2B part, we opened up the public services to banks, to all the payment system providers, to make sure that which UI, UX has a better option, the citizens will be using those kind of services online. And when, with regard to the exchange of experiences, taking into account this opportunity, I would like to invite everyone to UN Public Service Forum, which is going to be happening in Samarkand for the first time in Central Asia, June 23rd, 25th, where we will be able to provide the opportunities to exchange all these applications we have developed to make sure we have a more and more South-South cooperation.
Thank you. Last word from Your Excellency.
Solo quiero dejarles un ejemplo. en donde se muestra que sí es posible la universalidad en términos de los saberes, de la cooperación y el conocimiento. El ejemplo que les quiero dejar es el de los números. Cada cultura humana, la persa, la romana, la árabe, la hindú, desarrollaron el concepto del número y cada uno de una forma propia. Pero se demostró que el sistema indoarábigo era el mejor, el más eficiente y el que permitía que todos pudiéramos entender los números de una manera mucho más rápida, mucho más eficiente. Pero no solamente entender esos números, sino que se podía sumar, multiplicar y dividir de una manera más rápida, eficiente y adecuada. El conocimiento del mundo indoarábigo recorrió cada una de las partes del mundo y hoy es la universalización del conocimiento alrededor del número. Este tema lo puedo llevar en términos de lo que estoy presentando porque soy ingeniero de sistemas, orgullosamente de la Universidad Nacional de Colombia, y me permite establecer que hay determinados conocimientos de la humanidad que le sirven al mundo y se demuestra que es posible hacerlo.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. My distinguished panels, thank you for sharing these insights. I hope you have found this panel as informative and useful as I have. Unfortunately, all good things must come to an end. Thank you for sharing your thoughts. I leave now the floor for our next session, which is going to be a fireside chat. Ladies and gentlemen, I wish you a very pleasant afternoon. Thank you.